to the boardroom. This is the Business of Esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports. It's our weekly after show live stream. I'm starting to call it the weekly news live stream. For those of you guys who are new to the live stream, welcome. I'm Paul Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Jimmy Barada and Jeff the Juice Cohen, two of my favorite people in the whole universe. For those of you who are new here, what we do is we cover all the esports gaming and topics and news of the week. It's all the stuff that we can't fit into the podcast, which these days is most of the news and topics. So there's a lot to talk about. If you're a regular here, welcome back. If you're not, also welcome. We encourage you guys to participate, to get in our faces, to get involved. We really appreciate it. It makes the live stream that much more exciting. By the way, we know a lot of you lurk. That's okay too. But we really encourage you to participate. Jimmy, Jeff, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so busted, Paul. I'm so, obviously you and I are not in our usual setup. We're both on the road to work. And now that you're on the West Coast, I guess I have a confession, and that's every Wednesday, for those of you that don't know, we record the podcast at around 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then we do the live show at around 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. That means every Wednesday at around 3 o'clock Pacific, I, open up a glass or a bottle, and I work with Paul for about 3 hours. So
I was going to say, podcast 3 o'clock, maybe a little too early for the Chardonnay, but for the live stream, totally okay.
It's 5 o'clock for you.
True. I've been pitching for an official drink sponsor for a while, alcoholic drink sponsor, that is, but half the live stream doesn't drink, so it doesn't work.
Well, we've got 2 out of 3 tonight. Cam says hype. Greg says Cam's starting early today. Cam says great lineup tonight. I mean, Cam, let's face it, right? This is the AllStar lineup right here, right? This is all we need. No, we've got a ton of fun stuff to talk about. Apologies, Jimmy and I are not in our usual places, so if the audio's not as great or the video's not as great, sorry for the less than stellar production this week, but the fun part is we still get to do the show. We still get to do it with you guys, and there's a ton of stuff to talk about. So Wade says, Jimmy, you should be drinking gin so we could have gin and juice on the show. Wade.
That could be a spin-off content.
Spin-off content.
Legal release. I'm going to need you to sign that, and then we're going to jump on it. Hendrix, if you're listening.
It's a brilliant idea, and Jeff, I like it even better as a spin-off. I think it makes total sense as a spin-off
within the metaverse of Business of Esports. This is one of the metaverse.
Gin and juice.
Exactly.
Cam, Jimmy could be a bit louder if anything. I just turned him up. Cam, let me know if that's better. And Wade, you will be getting that release from Jimmy shortly. we might be stealing that. All right, guys, let's discuss 2 things. First, let's start with the podcast. So the podcast drops tomorrow, as always. Great guest. We had Mark Deppy, who's the director of esports at UC Irvine, which is probably, I mean, Jimmy, fair to say probably the best esports program in the country, definitely the biggest.
I have an unfair bias because I teach there, but I have so much respect for Mark, and I think the entire collegiate esports industry just really values his addition. I don't want to give up too much from the show, but every school approaches esports very differently. Not everyone has the funding, not everyone has the infrastructure or the support from the bureaucracy and administration. And what Mark's been able to accomplish at UCI is really a model and a guiding light, I think, for so many in the education space that want to take a similar route. So it's great episode. I can't emphasize listening enough.
Look, and I'm biased. I obviously teach at St. Peter's, so I love the program we have there, and the people we have there, and the kind of all the things that are being done there. But I just think UCI is at a different scale, right? Like, you're talking about a university that's 10 times the size, a research university, right? Like the kinds of things that they can do there around esports from both an academic standpoint, but a competition standpoint and a research standpoint, I think is sort of unrivaled in the space. So it was great to get Mark's perspective on the intersection of education and esports. I will say we also did get to at least one topic which was related to the rest of the podcast, and that is we touched briefly on universities in general building arenas. But in this case, the news story was Butler University building a 7,500 square foot arena on campus for only 9 collegiate athletes, like esports athletes. But there's this broader trend of universities building infrastructure and physical infrastructure. And so it was great to get Mark's perspective on that. We have a ton more to talk about, though, guys. So do you want to just jump into it here?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Should we start with a bit of? I think it's definitely unfortunate news, but I think not unexpected. And that is Venn. Do we want to start with Venn?
Only if you want to say I told you so.
Well, let's start with Venn. So the headline here: Venn furlough nearly half of their staff, cancel face check show after hiring an accounting firm to lead an acquisition process. Venn is scaling down for the 4th time in a year. As far as I heard, they're down to basically a skeleton crew in this article. They're saying Venn's furloughing half of their 15 employee staff, so they're down to, I guess, about 7. And supposedly there are ongoing acquisition talks with potential suitors. I think that's kind of the author here. From what I've heard, it's more of a fire sale. But this was as high profile as I would argue anything in esports got. They raised maybe more money than just about anyone in esports, right? They raised $43 million from a who's who, other than Bitcraft, who I wouldn't put in the who's who. And this thing has gone to zero now, guys. What does this say? It is mind-blowing. So I think that's everyone's reaction. Let me just start with let me give a preface, and then I'm curious to get your thoughts. First of all, people getting laid off. To be clear, no one's happy about that. This is bad for everybody. This is not something that's to be celebrated, right or wrong. People losing their jobs is definitely a bad thing. Let me just say one other thing, which is the concept around Venn, I thought always made sense, right? That there was a massive lack of content for specific segments of the gaming audience. And with $43 million, Venn should have been able to make this happen. Where do you guys think this went wrong?
This is a tough one to crack. Jeff, if you don't mind, I want to start off just because I had a lot of conversations with Venn regarding other clients that I used to represent when I was an independent consultant. And I can't get too deep into some of the projects, but I can say, some of the clients I represented were hesitant because, the Sasha Grey porn star angle, they didn't want that type of affiliation with their brand. Other clients I represented, we had some outrageous cash offers from Venn to work with them to have talent on their programming, like a lot larger than
well, now we know where the money went.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And I don't want to get into specifics on those projects, excuse me. But, I never had a clean dealing with Venn. It was always either too far in one direction or the other. And it's just mind boggling, because with that much money and with that great of an idea, I mean, you see how nice their production facilities are. They had some really great concepts, I think, some very nice, expensive shows. I mean, what does that say about the viewership? Did the viewers not come? Did the sponsors not buy into the program? Were they paying too much for talent? Is it a combination of all the above? We know and have had on the show some people that work in talent representation, as well as in Twitch micro influencer campaigns that were clients of Venn. And, it's hard to figure out exactly where it went wrong, if there was one person or one decision or one component to their strategy that was misaligned, or whether or not it was a combination of all these things. But I think it's a great case study for other content houses and other people in esports to kind of see, hey, you can have a great idea, you can have great shows, but execution, I think, smart investing, smart spending, the fundamentals of business still become important. You can't it just feels like they blew a lot of money very quickly, I think is for me what was hard to grasp. So I kind of want to hear, it's just like, I don't even know if I tried my hardest if I could spend that much money. So I definitely want to stop talking here and hear your.
No, I think you laid it out. I mean, I don't have the answer, because to your point, it felt like this was the perfect idea at the perfect. I don't think you can discount just how perfect of a time these guys were launching it. Like, imagine if I told you there was a company that was going to try to be the MTV of esports and create esports content and had tons of backing, had legitimate people, was hiring the right people, paying good money for the right talent, I think, and was launching in literally the smack in the middle of COVID, when we all know, just look at a Twitch chart or any metric out there, the billions of metrics that are out there showing that gaming has clearly exploded during the pandemic. So it really is a head scratcher, because it felt like the right company at the right time in the right market, and with the right amount of money. So I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe is it fair to like overgeneralize and say, hey, overproduced content doesn't work for esports. People want, just to watch Ninja stream. They don't want it to be some produced show. I don't know whether that's the right takeaway. You guys, this is something you guys specifically do for a business, so you guys have a better answer. But to me, it's kind of just crazy to think that this didn't work, or the fact that it failed so spectacularly quickly is kind of just mind-blowing.
Just to put things in perspective, Business of Esports had larger viewership than all of Venn combined. So, like,
number one.
Well, that's not surprising. Tell me a surprising stat.
We didn't spend anywhere near 43 million, maybe, as you can tell at the moment. But I think Greg hit the nail on the head. Like, really hit the nail on the head here. Ideas are easy, execution's everything, right? And so while I think no one disagrees that the idea was good, and Jeff, to your point, the timing was good, right? Maybe no better
perfect,
timing.
like literally perfect.
Literally perfect. I mean, it all comes down to the execution, but it's sort of the drum I've been beating since I started like operating in the gaming space in a meaningful way, which is there's lots of people who are passionate about gaming. There's lots of people who know the gaming space, but the number of people who legitimately know how to build a business and build one prudently, cautiously, making the right moves, making the right management decisions. Like, I can probably count those people on one hand for literally the entire industry. And I mean, Venn was an unfortunate victim of that. I think the frustrating part for me is, first of all, it makes the whole space look bad, right? Like I wasn't hoping for Venn's failure. I was calling it, but I wasn't hoping for it because it makes the whole space look bad. When in reality, it's really Venn's fault. It's not the space's fault. And I think where I'm doubly frustrated is you have a lot of good people who lose jobs because of 2 or 3 really bad managers. Fundamentally,
you also have a lot of sponsors, I think, that are now hesitant and are reevaluating their position because of this failure. So again, no one's gloating over this or happy about it. It's really a case study, I think, and something that we need to analyze and think about deeply.
I think Kyle's question is a good one. I'd be curious to hear what
I
you guys think.
I have a thought on that. You want to read it out, Paul? Or?
Yeah, Kyle says, do you think that they were trying, and by the way, Kyle, welcome. Do you think they were trying to model classic media outlets too much?
My
Jimmy, what were your
understanding
thought?
Well, my understanding of Ven's model and distribution was actually really on par, I think, with the trend that esports brought to traditional media. And that was that they were doing a lot of live streams. They were paying a lot of streamers to raid their content. They saw tremendous retention. And I thought all of these were really new age ways of getting media out there. I wonder if they were just paying too much where it was not sustainable. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a great question. I don't know too much about their app and their other programming, but we had AJ Damiano from Power Spike on. Venn was a client of theirs. They also work with Verizon and some other big players. And these guys were raiding Venn streams for months with the biggest streamers, very successful campaigns, tremendous viewership, and most importantly, like I said, great retention. So, if the numbers were there, if the viewers were there, maybe, what was the failure?
And for the audience, what does it mean to raid a stream?
Yeah,
obviously, I know what it is.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, to raid a stream.
For the people out there, like Matt Gideon guy.
This Matt Gideon guy.
Yeah. If I am streaming to my own audience on my own channel, I can bring that entire following with me and force them to watch someone else's programming. It's a really powerful tool. It's really cool when you're an up-and-coming streamer to have someone big like Ninja say, hey, everyone go watch this guy. I think he's great. And then he showcases you. It's the equivalent of, an athlete, gaming, I think, playing street ball with a young up-and-comer and tagging him or sharing, a cool dunk. It's the equivalent of a musician recording with a young up-and-comer and doing some kind of behind the scenes, hey, check out these vocals.
I couldn't have explained it better myself.
Guys, let me just throw one other thought out here, and it's related to Matt's point, which I actually think is really clever. So Matt says, is it possible that the timing was too good? Maybe the fact that they didn't act at the proper time showed that they weren't the right company for the moment. Let me just start with Matt's first part here and make the argument that could it be that everything was too perfect for Venn, right? The timing was perfect. They had all the big stars. They had more money than any startup in the space had ever raised, right? Like, so they had no money concerns, no resource constraints, no constraints whatsoever on the business. And when you have literally nothing constraining you in any way, you don't. There's no discipline required in running the business, right? And because everything was so perfect for them, there was no one ever applied any discipline to the business, and therefore this is why they failed. Like, anyone buy that argument that the scenario being too perfect?
I think that's fair, and it's literally the Quibi analogy kind of thing. I think when you have that much money to burn, it becomes very easy. You're not making the hard choices and doing things sort of the right execution way. It's easy to say, oh, let's film that episode again, or let's, that didn't work, scrap it, bring in something. Like, you're able to sort of be sloppy, I guess, because you're not hand to mouth kind of thing.
Sorry to interrupt. It goes to Greg's comment earlier as well that we read from chat, which was, the importance of execution, right? Just because you have the right timing, the right ideas, if you're not like you said, if you're mismanaging funds or time, equally importantly, equals failure is what we're learning.
I will say, because I know, Jimmy and I are out here filming content with our team. We had the team out until midnight last night filming content. I don't know if the Venn folks were working till midnight, but I don't know. Maybe.
I shared with the team. I said it reminded me of that Office episode because Paul, the boss, there making, so we're working late. It reminded me of that Office episode where Dunder Mifflin gets bought out by Saber, and the boss comes to make sure that they're all working hard. And it's St. Patrick's Day. It's Friday, St. Patrick's Day. They want to go have fun, and everyone's too scared to leave because the boss. So that's very much how it felt.
Wade agrees with you, Jeff. Seems like a mini Quibi, which I agree. It's unfortunate, right? It's not a good story. It's not good for the industry. But I think this is why, and this is where I personally take a lot of flack, and I just want to make my position clear. I'm hard on these companies. I'm hard on Activision Blizzard. I'm hard on Venn. I'm hard on these companies because I don't want to see this outcome, right? I don't want to see these companies go to zero because of bad management, bad decisions, poor execution. It's not good for anybody. And it's so easily avoidable. This has nothing to do with the external factors and the strength of the industry and the strength of the media opportunity. I don't believe that one bit. This is purely a Ven's own fault. There's literally, and look, unfortunately, I think, and the reason I'm so hard on Bitcraft is they have funded many companies in the same way they funded Venn, with no resource constraints, no oversight, nothing to force discipline on the business. And that to me is a bit scary. Greg says, do you think they would have been more successful if they had more recognized talent like Ninja or the Doc? I mean, Greg, they had massive talent, but
they had big talent. They spent
Sasha
a lot
Grey.
on talent. Sasha Grey, and not just endemic talent, like you said, Sasha Grey, all across the board. I think what the issue was, and this is what I've preached to other clients when I was in consulting, was I think that they spent a lot on big name talent right out the get-go, and that's very hard to sustain over a long period of time because this talent is charging a premium to be with you, not even exclusively for that period, right? We saw it with Mixer as well, where that was an exclusive deal. So that you can't buy an audience in this space. It's too organic and it's too genuine. What you do is you need to start grassroots. You need to build up a following. We also saw it. There's a company called Donut.gg. They were an app editor. They retained Nadeshot for a month for probably, my understanding of his rate was maybe $30K for the month to stream and use their product to edit his clips. What happened was massive spike in users for the month and then quick drop off, 1% engagement and retention thereafter. And I think we see that with Venn too, where they're spending a massive amount on big name talent all across the board. It's not sustainable over a long period of time. They're burning through cash and they lack that organic grassroots following where the spike in users or viewership or whatever you want to call it, audience, it didn't stay. It didn't stay, or when it was there just for that one thing, just for that giveaway, for that raffle, that event, and then they were gone. So
gamers are such a unique audience, though. Yeah. Really, they're such a unique audience. No one cares how nice the set looks. None of them did. They didn't care, right? The content was cringy. No one cared that the set was nice if the content's cringy, right? They just didn't understand. It was totally mismanaged, and I feel bad for the people that lost their jobs as a consequence. Yeah. That to me is the worst part about all this. Ben says, how much was COVID a factor? They never got people into their TRL of gaming space. It's a great question, Ben. By the way, Ben, everyone should reach out to Ben from YouGov. Who very generously are supporters of the show, and YouGov data is the best in the business. So you want a well-managed business with an incredible product. YouGov is the model there. So
I think Ben makes a great point here because I had been saying, hey, COVID, that was the perfect time to launch. And just from a pure eyeballs viewing gaming, clearly COVID was a boon for that. But the point I guess I didn't really recognize was actually creating the content, which was harder during COVID, and particularly with the, getting people, if their plan was to sort of get people into a room and have interactive audience participation, obviously COVID put the kibosh on that. So I don't think that would have been the saving grace for them, but that is something I just wanted to correct, because I did say COVID was the perfect time to launch, but this is clearly a counterpoint to that.
Well, I mean, it's a good counterpoint, but I want to speak to it too, because you couldn't get in the same room as these people. But on the flip side of that, you have all this talent, musical talent, sports talent, that's not competing because they can't travel because there are lockdowns and restrictions. What did they do? They said, hey, if they're gamers, they said, I want to get into gaming. They go to their agent or their representation and they say, how can we leverage my brand to this new audience? And so more than ever, Venn actually had an influx, I think, of people that were wanting to get paid to come on the show to act as guest appearances. And so how much was COVID a factor of their downfall? I would say the opposite. It's amazing to me that they had so much talent that was so easily accessible. Never before have you been able to leverage assets from other traditional entertainment properties in our space that would do it at a discount just because they weren't working or because they wanted to try something new, and they still couldn't capitalize on that. So I can't.
Maybe they weren't nimble. Maybe they weren't nimble enough at sort of pivoting. And part of that's maybe to what we were talking about before. When you're not resource constrained, you're not thinking outside the box and sort of
definitely
being creative. But anyway, I feel like we've thrown enough dirt on it.
No.
Sorry, Bob,
I just want to wrap this up and say, to Ben's point here, what was scary in their original plan was they were going to open a second location. So they have a production studio in LA, which remained, I think, mostly functional during COVID. I don't know how much they were filming out of there, but at least it was open. It was open or functional in some way. But they had committed to another space in New York that was, I think, even more over the top, even more expensive in the Oculus downtown, which I would argue would have accelerated the burn and probably also, they would have run out of money faster in a non-COVID world, as weird as that may seem. But I guess who knows?
It's crazy when you can produce a show from hotel internet, So.
It's true. It's expensive hotel internet, though. So, all right, guys, let's move on. Let's talk about DrDisRespect, okay? DrDisRespect, finally, we have an update, okay? And the beauty of this, it's sort of a legal update. The doc is punching back here, okay? DrDisRespect says he is suing Twitch for banning him. And he says, yeah, I do know the reason why now. So the two-time basically is on YouTube now. By the way, I can't remember if it's in this specific article, but I saw it in another article where he mentions that his income and his audience is about a quarter the size on YouTube compared to Twitch, which shows you, again, that I was totally right that the people at YouTube Gaming are completely useless and clueless. And their product is really subpar when a guy like the doc moves from one platform to another and gets 1/4 to 1/5 of what he was making before. But supposedly now he knows why they banned him. And he's claiming that because of the uncertainty around the ban, right? Because of the no one talking about why he got banned. Basically the lawsuit is saying, hey, you, Twitch, have destroyed my ability to get sponsors. You have ruined my brand. You have, right? Because no one wants to touch me now. And he says specifically in this interview that if you search my name, if you search DrDisRespect, the first article is about his Twitch ban, and no one knows why, so people assume the worst. And so therefore he's suing for damages. He's suing for, lost income. I think I saw a number in a different article also that was in the tens of millions, but I'm not sure.
Everyone wants $10 million, Paul. Everyone wants, in a lawsuit, everyone wants $10 million.
Well, just like every startup I see has a $20 million valuation, right? And every gaming company goes public at $30 billion. There's just some standards across the board.
It's science, I guess.
It's science.
For starters, I'm disappointed with the headline because I know there's a much more NC-17
yes, there was.
So do your own research there. This is such a joke to me, honestly.
Why?
Anything, because he's such an infamous character and he's so notorious that the ban, if anything, his brand was able to lean into that and capitalize off of it greatly. That's step one, or that's point one.
Okay.
Point two, when you talk about damages in a lawsuit, the counter defense is mitigation of those damages. And what were you able to do to stem the loss and recoup from that, right? If you were unable to use your office or your apartment, and how long did you sleep at a hotel, and you cap that from when you're able to go back or to find some type of alternate housing. I think it's more comparable with lost employment, like here, right? I got fired from my job. I lost all these wages because of this incident. And everyone's like, well, you could have taken a job at McDonald's. You could have taken a job here or there, where, we take whatever you made minus what you should have made. And that's the true damage, right? If you follow me. So anyways, here, what I'm seeing is one, we haven't seen the terms, the user agreement between DrDisRespect and Twitch, which allows Twitch to essentially cancel him at any time, I'm sure, for any reason. I guarantee it's drafted that broadly because they have a lot of power here before he was anybody. Two, like I said, with his brand, he is this notorious, outrageous figure where, if anything, this just made him that much more appealing to his audience and was more fun to talk about. He got into, it's like you said, the first thing you Google is this press of him getting canceled. That was a massive headline. It's like OnlyFans canceling their account just to canceling their pornography thing just to reverse it 2 days later because they got all this free press off of it.
So net, your take is he's not going to win this lawsuit.
What's going to happen is so I didn't say that. So lawsuits are never about winning or losing.
It depends.
No. I'm going to give you an answer.
Like a lawyer
answer.
I will give you an answer.
I feel like we're getting billable hours here for Jimmy.
We are
getting like a filibuster response.
I know how to stretch the words out. But lawsuits are never about right and wrong. They're never about achieving justice. It's just the sad truth. I'm a pessimist only in that respect. What they are about are strategic business decisions. They are about creating enough noise and annoyance until you're paid to go away. That's what every lawsuit is about, is how annoying can I be with the smallest truth or something that I can cling to that makes my argument even a little bit valid, where this other side can't just dismiss me. And even if they can, they're also paying for lawyers. There's time, there's costs. So it's basically
a really depressing outlook on the American justice system.
What it is.
The profession of being a lawyer. So is he going to get money?
I don't know what to tell you.
What do you got? What's your juice here?
He will.
Yeah, does he get paid?
So the Jim and juice here, shout out to Wade, is DrDisRespect will create enough noise, distraction, annoyance that he will force them into an undisclosed settlement over the next 12 months. That's what's going to happen here. I don't think it's going to be very expensive. I think it'll be enough to cover, because he has a strong brand presence and because he has the best lawyers, it will be 5 times more than what any other streamer would have been able to command. But I don't think it will be public knowledge. And that's my call.
That's fair. So can I ask a question about just because I think it's a good question for Jimmy. Do you, or both of you, do you guys have any, or was it in the article? Why is this just coming about now? One, why it sounds like he just found out why he was banned. Do we believe that? Doesn't make any sense. And why is he now just saying, "Hey, I'm going to sue now"? Is there some sort of he needed to wait a calendar year to prove how much he lost or whatever?
When was he banned? I can't even remember.
It's been a full year, or maybe even 2 years.
There is
he was banned in June 2020. Okay. He claims that he's making a fourth or a quarter of what he was making before. Okay.
Doubtful.
And he says at the time, he didn't know why he was banned. Okay. And he says, now he says, I do know the reason why now. I've known for months now. So he says for months.
So the timing, to Jeff's question, there is a statute of limitations on all legal actions. It's different depending on what the grievance is, right? You know, certain things that involve minors have a much longer period. By the way, none of this is meant to convey legal knowledge or advice. Six Cannon, no, you will absolutely not pass the bar with any insight from me. Definitely not. Please go to school. But there is, as anyone will tell you, there's a certain window within which you can assert these grievances. The whole I didn't know, there must be something in the terms of when you're getting canceled that Twitch probably said they're required to tell you the reason. So they're harping on that point to assert that was the reason for the delay. Because one of the defense's counter arguments will be, you know, hey, if this was a complaint of yours or if this was an issue, why didn't you raise it sooner so that we could have either settled it amicably or that we could have addressed it and started collecting data? To DrDisRespect's point and to what Paul said, he needed that amount of time to realize how much he suffered from being dropped from Twitch, right? So he'd say, I didn't even realize until a year from now when I did my accounting, when I was able to finally recover from this, get back on my feet, and then take a look at my books, what I was really missing out on. So I hope I answered all those questions. That was a super.
No, you did. It's still just odd to me. The gap, the year gap is still just strange. But
well, Marie loves your viewpoint here, Jimmy.
I know she's a lawyer, so that helps.
Now, Jimmy, the question is, would you?
Six Cannon clearly is not.
If DrDisRespect came to you tomorrow,
hold on, that's a bad question. Any lawyer's going to take any case if they're going to bill hours. I mean,
no, he's not going to pay you. You're only going to get 5% of the damages that you can recover. Are you taking the case?
They're going to get 30 to 40% of the damages.
This is not the hypothetical I'm laying out for you, okay?
Plus costs. But they're not, Paul, DrDisRespect's lawyers are likely not getting paid by the hour on this one. They sometimes do a blended arrangement where they could get paid by the hour at a lower rate plus a lower contingency fee. But the traditional model here is if I'm suing someone else, I'm taking 30 to 40%, depending on if we're in some type of initial discovery phase versus a late game trial preparation phase, which is more time intensive. And they can get upwards of 45% of the damages.
Wow. See, so I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, right? But when I saw this article, I thought this is a slam dunk for the doc. Slam dunk, okay? And I just want to read one thing he said here, and let me see if it changes your mind, because I agree this is going to get settled. I agree the doc's going to get some money. But I think his case, at least to me, feels stronger than, but again, I'm not a lawyer, but it feels stronger to me. And this really resonated with me. And there's some cursing in here, but this is a quote direct from the doc. Okay. He says, what's the first thing you see when you type the name in on Google? You see Lamborghini. I get it. But you also see doc banned from Twitch. No reason why. You think a big time company like Nike is going to want to work with that question mark, or a Disney? It effing sucks. It effing sucks. I don't know how else to put it, man. It's affected us in so many different ways. Do you not buy the fact that Twitch, in their secrecy, allowed people to make assumptions that genuinely hurt his career?
Great,
okay.
Question.
Here, well, Jimmy, you're the lawyer, but my moral compass. My quick question is, why was he banned? Because that kind of matters.
We don't know. We still don't know.
Yeah, but I'm saying, in order for me to have a moral judgment, I don't know about the legal judgment. Yeah. It kind of matters why he was banned. Like, let's say he was doing, I don't even want to say something bad. They found out he was watching kiddie porn or something. So they banned him.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell anyone. They just banned him. Then I think he doesn't have a great case. When it's well, this is why we banned him. So
I think
I can make up hypotheticals for anything.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be safe to assume that, based on at least his own comment, right? He's saying people are assuming it's worse than what it actually is, right? Yes, that's the sort of that's what's the reading between the lines there, right?
Taking
but you're still ignoring,
though. Why did Twitch ban him when he was getting a ton of views? unless there was a good reason, why did Twitch do this? Did we ever get to the bottom of that? I know we speculated on it.
No, and unless it goes to some kind of trial, right? We'll never know. If it gets settled, we'll never know.
No. We might. Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of this is not public filing. The trial is public filing. Certain pleadings and documents will become basic discovery. Will likely not be. So we might not ever know. I do want to speak to that, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we are getting ahead of ourselves because you're jumping into step 2 and step 3. Step 1 is, what's the agreement Doc had with Twitch? What's the standard partnership, or he's obviously not an affiliate, but what's the standard agreement that these tier 1 streamers have with Twitch, and what's their available recourse, and what are Twitch's rights here? Twitch might not have needed a reason to ban him. They could, California and New York, I believe, both being at-will employment states, they both could have just canceled him for any reason at any time without even disclosing a reason, honestly.
Right, but why would they? Presumably, the Doc was profitable for Twitch, right? Like, he was making tens of millions of dollars.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's making money. It doesn't matter if it was.
No. But I'm saying, thinking back what they legally could do. I understand Twitch could do that in the country, but like, there had to be a reason why they did it. If Doc was making $30 million on Twitch and he keeps what percentage of his revenue, like 50%. So like, that means Twitch was making $30 million or what, the math doesn't matter. Twitch was making tens of millions. But no, I get that, but there had to be a reason. Companies don't just say, hey, I don't want $10 million. Like, let's ban this guy because we just don't like he's an asshole.
You're talking
that doesn't make any sense.
You're talking from a business sense and a logical sense. I'm talking from a legal sense. If the judge or if the plaintiff, which is where we're at here, are asking me what was the reason, at will employment, I literally don't need one. Like,
I get that. I'm kind of more.
Let me just read these comments and then I want to move on.
I just don't get why they do it.
Six Cannon says, I don't know if this was said prior, but I honestly think it feels as big as it does because no one knows at all. On top of whatever type of money he's going to get from this, it's a PR stunt because now they'll tell us why. If it's on public record, feels like a game of chicken.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is. It's a legal game of chicken. I just think Doc has a pretty strong leg to stand on, is my feeling.
That's only because.
And hang on, I just want to bring in William here. Sorry.
We get William's take.
Yeah. No. Keep next story, guys. I've been in the back room listening. I think you guys have done a great job of dissecting it.
Cool. Let's move on, guys. Let me
join for a fresh story. Hot take. Yeah. But great to be here at the live stream. I mean, they say better late than never, but I say I'm always here in spirit. So,
always here. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Activision Blizzard, guys. Activision Blizzard, again, more personnel changes there. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think, significant. We had, let me just bring this up here. Sorry. We had a significant departure here. This is Activision Blizzard head of leagues, Joanna Ferries, has stepped down from the role. And Brandon Snow has been promoted to the role. So Brandon Snow is going to head up both Overwatch League and Call of Duty League. It was revealed that Ferries has been absent from a lot of the team owner monthly meetings, and she's taken a step back from the position to focus on the development of the Call of Duty franchise exclusively. So she's going to have, the official statement aside, basically what the insiders are saying is she's not going to have any role in Call of Duty League or Overwatch League other than through her role in the Call of Duty franchise itself. Anyone want to read into this? Like, good, bad? Do we like this?
It's just odd. I can give my first take, which is sort of what I said in the chat the other day. It doesn't. One, I know this is another episode of sort of the prophet. The prophet was right, so Paul could take his victory lap. But what is surprising
so to many victory laps, my legs are tired.
What is surprising to me is that they brought in Joanna who was a high-level executive at the NFL. And I think when that hire was made, most people, not the prophet, saw through it. But I think the perception was, for most people, okay, that makes sense. They're trying to build a professional league. This is a person that has amazing experience with the pinnacle professional sport in the U.S., if not the world. Great hire. She's going to bring all this learnings and all this expertise from the NFL. Boom, bring it into the Overwatch League. And I think it was initially the Call of Duty League. Then she took over the Overwatch League. Weirdly enough, 6 months later, now she's not doing either. but that sort of made sense. Then somehow she started running the Call of Duty brand, which, is not her background, right? Her background is running and operating and being involved in a professional sports league. Building video games, particularly building a video game like Call of Duty that's been around for 15 years and is one of the biggest IPs in the world, it's not really analogous. So it's odd that they sort of took something that she had really good background for and then moved her to a job where I would say she doesn't really have great background for. So it's a bit that's what is kind of surprising to me, honestly.
Does anyone think she'll still be at the company 6 months from now?
No. It was a great exit. It was a great opportunity to leave under understandable circumstances, despite other things that may have gone on. What was interesting to me here was you have this filing and this outrage of disproportionate treatment from the female gender, and what do? You lose a female executive and you promote a male. So I thought that was interesting. Whether or not he was qualified, it's like how tone deaf, to me. So I don't know. I want to hear from William because you hopped in. This is the new story, and Jeff and I have been talking for a while.
I don't know. I mean, I have a positive spin on it in the sense that I always think that, first of all, I think it's probably a bigger deal to be helming the entire franchise than helming the esports scene for a franchise, right? I also think people who are talented and high caliber can succeed in a lot of different roles, regardless of their background, and how applicable their background is. And I think particularly at the high level of business we're talking about, dealing with, right? A lot of the skills are people driven, HR driven, deal making, they're transferable, right? I think it was a lot for one person, to be in charge of an entire franchise and the league within the franchise. Just personal opinion, why not? I feel like, why couldn't this be an exciting opportunity, to bring more talent in and to have somebody focus a little bit more around their role. I think it could be a very positive story, actually.
William, sorry, Paul. I was just going to say, I love the optimism. What would make me feel better about it is if stepping down included a self-appointed replacement or someone that she had given her badge to and said, I want this person to take over for me. I advocate, right, for this person to fill my, kind of like when you leave a job and you say, hey, giving you my 2 weeks, I'm going to find my replacement for you. And if that person were also a woman or another underrepresented person that we think deserves a space in at this higher level.
I mean, you're working under the assumption that she stepped down willingly, right? Or that language is accurate, which stepping down is classic language for usually being fired or being demoted, right? That's you never put a press release out saying, hey, we demoted this person, they've been doing a terrible job. You say, oh, they've stepped down, their responsibilities are changing, right? Like, it's never messaged. Like no one steps down from a huge job like that willingly. I
would say, to William's point, I think running the Call of Duty business is a much bigger job at Activision.
But she was already running that. She already had that. Right. And look, like, I wanted to bring up this other story.
I mean, like, counterpoint, like, you don't have like the CEO of an ice cream company also in charge of the Nevada ice cream factory. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just trying
they put her in charge of both. They did. Activision Blizzard did, right? At some point, someone's thought that was a good idea. I mean, there was this other story which backs what William's saying, which is, and all of you, I think, have said, Call of Duty is important to Activision. I mean, let's face it. They're saying, this article, Activision confirms all its core studios are working on Call of Duty. 2,000 employees working on Call of Duty. Like, I'm pretty sure they've given up on making any new games, and basically now Call of Duty is going to be the only game at Activision Blizzard. That's my sense, right? We'll be having this conversation 5 years from now, and it will be the Call of Duty company. It won't be Activision Blizzard.
And the stock will be $300.
It will be.
So I'm okay with it.
But like, I don't know. I saw this whole situation very differently from the get go, and it, for me, this wasn't political in any way. It had nothing to do with that. It was just they hired a person that seemed totally unqualified for the job initially, just because, again, anything hiring traditional sports into esports has proven that those two things don't translate that well. The Call of Duty League and Overwatch League have been dumpster fires. And so I think Activision Blizzard has woken up to that and said, wait a second, this person's not really done a great job. We need to move them out. And this is the way they're moving them out quietly, because to Jimmy's point, coming out and firing this person right now in the current Activision Blizzard climate would be a total disaster. I'm almost sure that we're going to see a more graceful exit in the next 6 months once all of the bad sort of press has passed, and they can do this more quietly. But I have a funny feeling that they have soured on the results or the lack of results, and this person's being moved out would be my guess. And it was too much. It didn't make sense, to William's point. Like,
well, I don't necessarily feel comfortable speculating on that, but it is just odd that it's like she got, if the situation you're describing her, if that is correct, it's just a terrible move on their part because they gave her more responsibility, right? So I'm not necessarily sure I buy it. I'm more by William's, optimistic view of this is a massive job. And let's face it, the Call of Duty League is generating like less than $100 million of revenue, whereas we just pulled up that article. Literally, Call of Duty is generating $4 billion. So if it was, hey, let's carve out this little piece, maybe someone else, maybe Brandon Snow was doing a great job in line for promotion, and it was, why is this is wasting hours of Joanna's time when she needs to be focused on this golden goose. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think we should completely be speculating. Maybe she did. Maybe she's viewed internally as she's done a great job with the Call of Duty brand, and they're giving someone else an opportunity on the leagues. But we'll see. This
time will tell.
Profit
I'll be doing
right.
another victory lap. That's okay. All right, guys. Let's do a bit of a more uplifting story here. Let's talk about. Hang on. I wanted to bring this up. Stardew Valley, which I thought was interesting in the context of esports. And I had not seen, I don't know. We had this conversation once upon a time, if you guys remember, about more casual MMOs, right? Do you guys remember that conversation? This is not coming up for some reason. Stardew Valley firmly in that camp. But the headline here, chill farming simulator Stardew Valley to host a $40,000 esports tournament. And the article talks about how, this is basically a farming simulator, but they're going to have a $40,000 prize pool. It's a competition of what they call skill, knowledge, and teamwork. They're going to have some of the biggest Stardew Valley streamers and players in the world. And it happens all in September 4th. It's going to be live streamed on Twitch and YouTube like any legitimate esport. Who here thinks casual games like Stardew Valley have legitimate esports future?
Guys, I get to jump in on this one. This is an abuse of the term esports a little bit, right?
Why?
Because any game requires skill, right? Or at least any good game. And Stardew Valley is a very good game. There's skill, there's knowledge, there's, right? You're not fostering a long-term competitive scene and a lifestyle. This is just, they want to get a piece of the eyeballs that are generated around games. They need an event to, promote. They could call this a streaming marathon, and it would be just the same thing that they're doing with I think it's a fun twist to call it an esport, and 40K in prizes maybe makes the stakes more interesting for viewers. But let's be honest, they're not launching a league. Nobody's gonna grow up, like you do with baseball, starting in Little League and prepare for the Stardew Valley majors. This just goes, we've seen many of these stories where games recognize esports as hot, and they recognize a little bit of esports spice on their media plan can't hurt. I don't really have anything against it. It's just, and it's not a bad idea. And I applaud the marketers there for doing it because it's getting press now. We're talking about it, but it does feed into this notion that, esports are and not everything really is an esport, or at least not in the sustained way that I think it really makes sense to talk about as its own category.
I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here because you're usually the one talking about an expansive chess is an esport, anything's an esport. Me sitting here,
I'm surprised.
Tapping a button is an esport. Like, who cares? It's all, I think having the narrow definition of esports, I think, hurts our industry. I mean, it's gaming. Gaming watched as a spectator event is literally the definition I would use of esports. But like, to your point, it doesn't seem like you're offended by it, but you're just like talking about a definitional thing. But
no, I guess
to me, it's like,
I agree with that definition of esports in the sense that, Stardew Valley could probably be an esport. A lot of things could probably be an esport, but
it's a video game that people are watching other people play. It is an esport. That is the definition of it.
But I think talking about this is like the way this is positioned, sort of like an esport. I think what's worth understanding is to distinguish the properties where esports behaves differently versus where it's just a media play. It really is about that sustained ecosystem, with an intent to monetize off of eyeballs. And that's not what's happening here, right? It's just Stardew Valley is a great game.
If that's your definition,
how is this?
Yes,
how is this different than Fortnite? If this article was Stardew Valley is going to have a $40 million prize pool as opposed to a $40,000 prize pool,
well, then it's an esport, Paul. I mean, when it goes,
to me, Stardew Valley and Fortnite are on equal competitive skill caps. Like to me, this
you're only okay with this, Paul, because it's on PC. If this were a mobile game, you would say, how outrageous, this is not an esport. That's the only thing here, and that's what drives me crazy.
That's 100%.
That's the truth.
I'm all for Stardew Valley esports. Let's see some bigger prize pools. Let's see some more competitors. Anthony says, hey, Anthony. Kyle says, Venn would have covered the event. They probably wouldn't have, Kyle, but it would have been cringy had they. All right, let's move on. That's a quick one. Can we do another super quick one? Because I think it's really interesting. CSGO, highest paid esports game in 2021 with $8 million in prize money. Is anyone blown away that CSGO still at the top from a prize money standpoint?
This would have been my 6th or 7th guess, honestly. I love that it's been around. I bunny hopped back in the day. CSGO, I think it was 1.2. We had a server in high school. I admin slapped people across the map. I had so much fun playing that game. The fact that it's still relevant, that not only is it relevant that it's dominating, but again, this wouldn't have been my top 5 for me in terms of if you asked me to guess.
What would have been? I'm surprised to hear that. I mean, what would have been your top 5? Obviously, Dota League, I assume, would be in there.
Dota League, I put Fortnite up there. I put COD Mobile potentially, or split COD and COD Mobile for another 2.
COD Mobile? I mean, they haven't had any big tournaments, have they? Fortnite didn't have a World Cup. If they had a World Cup, I guess it would have been higher. This is only 8 million.
I guess that's what it is. That I'm ignoring it for this year, right? And maybe that's why CS:GO snuck in here.
Guys, I gotta tell you 2 things. First of all, I think this is for the first half of this year, right? It's the highest price.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because all the big tournaments for the major leagues run in the calendar years, and they haven't had their big tournaments yet. Like, that's part of what's going on here. Is like, I guarantee you, League will be way higher when we have the World Championships of League and their biggest prize pool is deployed. That's part of it. But the other part of it is the nature of the property here, right? Counter-Strike is one of the properties that isn't directly or isn't as aggressively monetized by the publisher, right, in their owned publisher league, right? So how do these third parties effectively create interest in Counter-Strike if they don't have the same exclusivity and publisher control that, say, a League of Legends has, right? The answer is pricing. That's how you make your events marquee. So this particular structure, the publisher choosing to be more hands-off, has created incentives for other people to have higher pricing because it's one of the easiest ways to differentiate third-party events in the absence of fiat. That's what's going on. Bam! Bam!
Christina says, hi, guys. Hey, Christina. Welcome.
Hey, Christina.
Six Cannon says, would you say it's above CS Valorant in competitive esports or below? Where do you guys put CS today? William, you had a strong opinion there.
Whoa. I mean, CS
and there's so many factors, right? There's prize money, there's total media dollars.
From a betting perspective, it's still top 3. I mean, it's actually number 1.
Yeah.
Still.
I wouldn't put CS in the top 3 esports today.
You wouldn't?
I wouldn't. I would not. I know that's crazy to say. If you asked me to make a list of the top 3 I mean, it's close. I don't think it makes top 3.
Well, now you have to make the list.
What's
now we have to hear.
what's your list?
You can't just say something that I think you're not going to get juiced.
Whoa. I mean, I would
really need an animation. You got juiced
mm-hmm.
with like splatter on the individual, the individual corners.
Soundboard. I mean, League is obviously number 1, right? I don't think anybody disputes that. I might put Valorant as number 2 right now with everything that's happening around the game and the growth trajectory it's in and the mind share it seems to occupy. Third, I might have, it's a tricky one, but I might have either Call of Duty or Dota. Depending on, I mean, this is like a very abstract measure. Like, obviously, if you say, let's measure pure viewership, right? Let's do this. If you measure pure player base, right? The number.
Like this is
the professor's
You're using
own
a lot
index.
Of projection.
Yeah, this is like a holistic sense of the traction a brand has in the marketplace, the number of the player base it occupies, its cultural relevancy, like that. There's a lot of. This is a very hand wavy index.
I feel like if you were saying like what is the biggest esport in 3 years from now, what do we think the list will be? Like, I kind of feel like your list makes more sense than today.
Well, then
like it's hard to say Call of Duty. I mean,
you're going to tell me mobile's not on that list 3 years from now?
I should have just had
30
all
years
mobile
from now.
esports. Number
mobile,
0,
3 years,
all mobile. But I mean, guys, the reality is CSGO is a fantastic game and one of the highest skill cap games, I think, in esports today. I also think the reality is it has a direct competitor, like a absolute direct competitor in Valorant today, right? Like, you cannot deny Valorant is aimed at squarely taking market share from CSGO. It doesn't have the competitive support that Valorant does from the publisher. And I know it has a very strong competitive scene, but it's nothing like Riot has shown they're able to execute with the LCS, right? Which is the gold standard for esports. And it also just doesn't appear to be as actively maintained. And it's had less recent successes as a brand. I can point of high profile things that probably haven't worked in CSGO recently, like, say, what was that whole Crossfire League that got started or whatever, that I think, we've never talked about again. Do you know what I'm speaking of with the four top pro teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can talk about a lot of things that have tried to activate around CSGO that haven't worked, which is generally not a great sign for a brand. I think the reality is it's by no means dead. It's one of the biggest esports in the world. There was a time when it arguably would have been number 1. I don't think it is in the top 3 right now. And I think it's a lesson to all games. Look, like, you can be insurmountable with a huge player base, but you at some point, right? Like, you're vulnerable to disruption. Just like Paul, you see the same thing is happening to World of Warcraft right now.
Anthony says, I would have thought League or Fort. I mean, these are like, we're talking about rankings that we're making up essentially.
Yeah.
Right? There's we could probably make arguments for a bunch of them. Let's move on, guys. There's big news here from Atari, and big news of the intersection of gaming and hip hop. Okay, and I really love this article. So the article, the headline here is Soulja Boy claims he owns Atari, now plans to sell the gaming company. Okay, so Atari was reportedly interested in his Soulja game consoles and his Soulja game handhelds. And let me just quote him. He says, he went on his Instagram Live to announce that he's Atari's new boss. He says, I'm now the owner of Atari. I own the video game Atari. He says, we are about to sell the company for $140 million. Atari reached out. I just signed 2 deals. I'm the owner, the first rapper to ever own a video game company.
I think this is great. I love it.
Hold on. Let me just finish. Someone at Atari then went on their Twitter account and refuted the claim and said, we know that CEO of Atari is a dream job, but that honor belongs to Wade Rosen. Soulja Boy was not happy about that. and he posted this, which I will not read, but he's claiming that. Hold on, let me see if I can make this bigger. He's claiming that that he in fact was contacted by Atari, had conversations with Atari, does own Atari, I guess, and then finishes with y'all a dead bleep video game company.
But yet he's trying to sell it for 140 million.
This makes so much more sense now. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and so much satisfaction in this like small progression.
This is amazing.
Anthony says sounds legit. So
we're all just like nodding, like, yeah, no, that sounds.
So
is there a discussion?
Who actually currently owns Atari is the question, because I feel like one tweet wasn't much of a refuting of his claim. Like, he claims he owns the whole company, and they sort of just said, well, no, our CEO is Wade Rosen. So does Soulja Boy actually own Atari? 1. 2, do you believe that he was contacted by Atari to help turn around the business because of his own consoles and handhelds? And 3, will we see a rapper at the head of a video game company?
I mean, it is amazing that they actually responded like, no, you don't own it. You know what I mean? Like, if I tweeted like, hey, I'm selling the New York Jets, like, Jets wouldn't tweet back like, you actually don't own us. We're owned by the Johnson family. Like, it makes you think maybe there's a little bit of fire where there's smoke.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Good for Atari. It's pretty good marketing. I mean,
yeah, great marketing. These guys have huge ego, and if you rub them the wrong way, as you see, they're going to implode, and you're going to wish you never made that one phone call. How many the real question, I think, is how many calls did Atari give Soulja Boy, or how many conversations did they have, and how far along in those talks were they? Because obviously he's going to inflate or exaggerate his position with the company and what he was doing with them. I have no doubt that there was at least one phone call to do some type of branded partnership that he then, like, my mom was the mother in charge of our fraternity, and she calls herself our what she said she was our president. You know, like, it's just the kind of thing that happens. But, it's fun. But
Jimmy, hear me out.
What happened.
Right? So first of all, I think Atari is kind of a dead company, right? Like, they haven't really done anything significant in any like recent history. So like, kind of a dead business. Wouldn't it have been genius to allow Soulja Boy to take over the business? Like, why would they refute this, right? This would have been such a great marketing stunt. Soulja Boy takeover of Atari, right? And I don't know.
He was planning on just selling the company, so that
was the piece I wanted to engage on. Is 140 million a good price for Atari? Like, I'm like quite serious. Like, I read that.
It's a good question.
Yeah, like, I'm like, that sounds sort of like a reasonable market price to me. Like there's probably a lot of legacy revenues, some brands. Yeah, well, like, nothing's as good. You're never going to get a deal. My Disney metric might not work anymore because that turns out to be such an incredible deal. Like, like, the problem is nothing looks good compared to the Disney acquisition of Star Wars anymore. Because you'd rather have 1/10 of Star Wars.
You always talk about Star Wars, but the Marvel acquisition was the same price, and it's probably worth 5 times as much as Star Wars.
Whoa.
I know.
Slow your roll.
You know what, Jeff? You know what, Jeff?
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong, but lay off my Star Wars index.
I got Williams
Marvel
back.
I
will rage quit this chat.
Marvel might have been like 7 billion.
Anyone who tells me Marvel's worth more valuable than Star Wars.
I mean, they bought Marvel for 4 billion, so it was the same price. You can't tell me that Marvel's not worth more than Star Wars.
On paper,
they've made $25 billion.
Yes.
They made $25 billion on the MCU in the last 10 years. I don't think. Are we
going to litigate this at the point of acquisition?
I actually am curious. I think it's Marvel, but you guys might be right. I'm not as.
But can we get back to the question? Is Atari worth 140 million?
No. I don't know. Who knows? What do they make?
What do they make? Yeah, what do they make?
What do they make? Yeah, what do they make? It's just a licensing play, right? Pretty much, as far as I know, and a back catalog.
Yeah.
They've got a good brand name. I don't know if it's worth 140 million.
I mean, if you do the math, right, they're going to have some great legacy brands. I think don't they have activations in Japan? Like I think they have game centers and things in Japan. They must do some new games. I guarantee you they have some sort of mobile business. Didn't they try to do a mobile business? And they probably and
that sounds like it's worth 140 million.
Yeah, they have a cool
they
logo
tried,
and
I think, to
hoodies.
do a mobile business. Who knows?
They tried to do a mobile business.
140 million, of course. Sounds good.
Well, hey, there
Cam
probably
says, sorry. Go ahead, William. Sorry.
There probably is 140 million of value there. I would guess. Seems like a reasonable price. Not a crazy price, right? It's not
That's
like
worth more than
that with
Allied.
such conviction when we have no idea what they're actually.
But that's more than an Allied Esports, right? To be fair,
and Allied Esports has 110 million in cash.
Cash. It's true. Cam says, excited to see what Soldier brings to the metaverse. That's actually hilarious. Didn't they make the big hotel, or were planning to? Was on a podcast ages ago. Yeah, I think they are. There is some plan, but I think it's still a few years away. Again, I think it's a licensing play more than anything. They're not making the hotel. I'm pretty sure they're just lending their brand to the hotel. So
that's what Marriott does. I mean, that's the way to do it.
They also manage. Marriott also manages, right?
I don't know.
All right, let's do one last story here. I've got Tencent, I've got FaZe, I've got Google's secret plan.
Tencent?
Tencent. It was an article about how Tencent spent. Here, I'll show you guys. I don't know if there's that much to talk about here, but I'll bring it up. It's Tencent spent 1.3 billion to buy video gaming firm Leiyu, but left it to languish. And it's kind of a rare. It's like this article I thought was interesting because I think it's the first time I've seen a misstep from Tencent of this kind of thing, right? Where they've made an acquisition that hasn't totally panned out and been a massive success.
What was I haven't read the article, but Leiyu owns Digital Extremes? Isn't that Warframe? That's the company.
Yes.
Yeah, there
yes.
You go. And do we know what it said that they made missteps on?
Well, they said Amazon canceled their game deal with Leiyu because Amazon couldn't come to terms with Tencent. And supposedly there's a mass exodus of people. So many executives, people are leaving the business for whatever reason. That they're saying that it's just not going well over there, and no one seems interested in staying. Now, what they're saying is what Tencent really wanted was the option to invest and own Certain Affinity, which is a video game developer in Austin. And Leiyu had acquired a 20% stake in Certain Affinity, and they were producing some interesting IP. But basically, they have been on the search for IP, have not found much, and Tencent doesn't seem to care for Leiyu's other operations.
That's interesting because Warframe is a very successful game, right? It's one of these.
Yeah, a bit long in the tooth, but yeah, a bit long in the tooth.
Interesting.
It's just, I mean, it's inevitable that Tencent's going to make some bad investments. I don't think that everyone's going to work out perfectly. Sorry, William, what were you going to say?
I find it highly unlikely they would buy a company just to be able to invest in a company that it has a 20% stake in. Like, there seems to be more direct ways to put the capital.
Right, they're going to put $1 billion to work so they can buy that. It's like that company.
Well, keep in mind
they just bought the other company.
Keep in mind though, Tencent investing in Leiyu, a Chinese company, easy. Tencent investing in a Texas company, much more difficult from a regulatory standpoint, from how much scrutiny it gets.
I don't know how many. I agree with your greater premise, but I don't know how much the U.S. government's gonna be that concerned with Tencent buying $100 million gaming studio. Like, I don't think that's gonna that's not public either. It's like, what are
I just think it's like, wasn't there some article that was, I think it was even on the side when we were reading this, like Tencent's invested in a new gaming company every 3 days this year or something. I literally think I saw that linked on the side there, and I remember reading something to that effect. Like, you buy a bunch of stuff, some of them don't work as well, you know? And I find it, and I think it would be crazy, even if Warframe is maybe not, you know, the newest bell at the ball, you know, it's still a great, very popular online free-to-play game that's very differentiated. Like, I actually think Warframe is super interesting as an IP. I think it's one of the most differentiated games out there today that's popular. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a case of, yeah, you buy some things and sometimes they don't work, you know? And it hasn't even been like, it's like the studio's dead. It's going through some growing pains, you know?
Well, they're losing people, and it seems Tencent has just sort of is not focusing on it. But Tencent also has like 50 other studios, right?
Yeah,
like
they have a ton of studios. $1 billion acquisition probably doesn't rate in their top 3 priorities. And guess what? Tencent can probably fix it if they want, because I bet you they have lots of high quality studios that can work on that IP. You know, if they are, you know, we even speculated they might be buying people just to get access to development resources, right? Like they have, if anyone can fix the talent drain problem, it's probably Tencent.
Is that worth 1/3 of a Star Wars or 1/3 of a Marvel? That's what I want to know.
Look, nothing is ever. Disney's the greatest company ever at acquiring things. That is the
What
greatest.
about Pixar? Can we talk about Pixar? How does that?
Can we not? I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
No, but like, let's just think like what, like, Disney buys gold. I'm telling you. And there's a question of, do they make it gold or do they buy gold? I think it's both, but I mean, yeah.
Wade says, what's Google's secret plan? So I feel like I said that was the last story, but before I get to Google's secret plan, I just want to mention, guys, very quickly, YouGov is a very tremendous supporter of this live stream. They produce the best data on gamers, esports games. If you're looking for actionable, like really actionable data that you can make business decisions on, if you're operating in or around the gaming space, if you're at all even interested in the gaming space or reaching gamers, you definitely need to go to be speaking to YouGov before you do anything, because the data you get there really is the foundation for a lot of the decision making. And we've used it internally at Business of Esports with other potential sponsors and things like that. Like, we're not just talking about the product because they support the show. We actually use the product, and the data truly is amazing. I'm going to put a link in the chat, yougov.com/gaming-esports. There's a bunch of like free reports and free data there, but highly recommend reaching out to like Ben Perro, who you saw in the chat, who's at YouGov, or anyone at YouGov on LinkedIn or Twitter. Show them some love.
Guys, and just go check it out. It's really worth the time.
Tell them Jimbo sent you.
Tell them Jimbo sent you. All right, let's talk about Google's secret plan quickly here, guys. Okay. And the headline here: Google secretly had a giant gaming vision that includes bringing games to Mac, a Google plan to become the world's largest game platform. So basically, they wanted to bring, from what I understood, and I didn't go, there's like a 70-page document of their big gaming strategy. But fundamentally, what they wanted to do was bring a harmonized experience, what they call across platforms. So bring essentially Play Store games to every platform. So you could have Play Store on your Windows laptop, on your Mac laptop, on your mobile phone, on your iPhone even. Like they wanted to bring Play Store games everywhere in some fashion. And fundamentally, like I probably went through the first 15 or 16 slides here, and my only conclusion was, this is just Stadia. I mean, this is Stadia. Like, I don't know why they're pretending Stadia doesn't exist here, or that this is some different future of gaming that they're predicting. The question I have for you guys on this is, Google has talked a lot of big talk. Stadia, future of gaming on the big stage, the reveals they've had, now this 70-page leaked document, about the future of games. Is part of Google's problem just like over-promising and under-delivering, or do they just truly not understand gaming? or is this just brilliant and the plan's just in process and I'm not seeing it yet?
Just talking a lot and not able to back it up, honestly. Like the most outrageous. Sorry, William, go for it.
No, I mean, I'll look. They could very well transform the future of games. I mean, let's be clear. They're a huge company, massive resources, incredible track record of innovation. Yeah, they've launched a bunch of stuff that doesn't work, but that's also sort of like Google's motto. Like they seem to be, and that's I think one of the good things about Google. Like people get mad that Google launches stuff, and like that's innovation, man. Like that's what more big companies need to do is try stuff and have it not work and not be scared to do that, right? That being said, like I would like to see if you're going to do the future of gaming and that you're going to be part of that future anytime soon, I would expect to see you have more at the table today, right? And in particular, I would expect you to at least look like what Amazon is doing with building your own game studios, looking at exclusive content, right? Like at least something like that, because I think it's difficult to own a content-driven space without in-house content. I just think that's fundamentally true, right? You know, I get this whole we can be an app store for games thing. The most successful app store for games today, guys, is Steam. And it was started and still is arguably driven by the Valve exclusive content, right? Like arguably. It has a lot more going for it today, but, you know, I think it's fundamental to its success. So, yeah, I think it's great. And I would like to see Google push at this because I think they have some great technology in-house. I think they can make some amazing games. I think, you know, more competition in the distribution space will help developers, right? It will compress, you know, the platform margins and make sure that people who make games get a larger creative share. It will create new marketing opportunities. It will stimulate new IP, right? Like what you're saying, we all say we want. So I hope they get involved, but I don't think a 70-page document makes me take it super seriously, a leaked 70-page document.
It always feels like I wish they underpromised a little bit more and let us be a bit more surprised and delighted, right? Like it always comes off as ambitious, which I'm not faulting them for. I think it's great. And William, to your point, innovation is not just about successes, right? Like it's about trying a lot of different things and some of it's going to fail. But it's the over-the-top messaging that gets me sometimes, right? Like, don't tell me you're building the future of gaming. Just build it. Then let me realize you've built the future of gaming. Like we get it. You're Google, but I don't know. I think they've lost a lot of credibility in the gaming space, and that's going to hurt them. I don't think they realize how badly their gaming brand has been damaged.
Yeah, I think, William, you made some great points, right? Like putting things in perspective. It's just very hard to take them seriously when there's so much hype and so much like, hey, did you know we were going to do this really awesome thing, you know, that we didn't follow through with because of whatever, you know.
And when so many other people are making the future of gaming, like Tencent's buying everything, they're a huge company too, right? Like Amazon's launching their own studio. Facebook's bought Oculus and has reorganized like half of their business unit around like, you know, something that seems to have gaming at a premise. Like a lot of other big companies that could make the future of gaming seem to be doing more, right? I'm not saying Google couldn't. I'm just saying like, and by the way, like, I mean, good for them. Like set the lofty goal. Like don't start with, we're going to sort of kind of impact gaming, maybe a little. Like they should set the most ambitious goal they can. I don't fault them for doing that, but I do think if they want to be a credible player in the space, they better start playing soon, and they better bring more to the table than what Stadia has brought.
Wade says, and I want to wrap on this, I so wanted them to win the music space back in the day, but they blew that. They should have owned that space long term. If they couldn't get music right, it's hard to believe they'd get gaming right. I mean, they still have time. It's not too late. But let's to bring things full circle. Ideas are easy. Execution's hard. Even for Google. So it's not just Venn. That even applies to Google. Guys, did anyone play anything this week before we wrap up? Do we do a quick what are we playing this week?
I mean, I played stuff. I played, you know, I think I mentioned it. I played on the podcast. I talked about him playing the Ghost of Tsushima DLC and then some Valorant, quite a lot of Valorant actually right now. And, you know, I mean, I always play Heroes because it's my true love, but.
Jimmy, I know you didn't.
Well, I haven't played anything this week, but I have downloaded about 8 mobile games to try on my Razer Kishi that Paul got for me. So I will hopefully have a really fun update.
Is that a phone? What is that?
It's a controller for your phone because Paul supports
Controller
mobile
for your phone.
gaming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Paul does
Yeah.
famously
Big
support
supporter.
mobile gaming.
Big financial backer to the industry.
Jeff,
No games this
Okay.
week. No time. No
Okay.
time. Just
but
so busy. Focus.
here's what-
Execution.
Well, I
I-
want to tell you,
GMBL.
Jeff, I just installed Madden for mobile. We can play together. Just saying.
I actually will. Did Madden come out yet? I feel like it probably
Nothing
did.
would upset Paul
Probably
more
came
than if
out,
we talked about Madden mobile on the
yesterday.
podcast.
I will download that actually.
Here's I didn't play anything this week, but I did have a story for my final victory lap of this live stream, which is going to be what I played this week. New World, second most wish listed game on Steam. All right, there you go. On that note, thank you guys for tuning in this week. Jimmy, William, Jeff, thank you guys. Everyone who participated, who was in here, we really appreciate it. We do this every Wednesday evening, 8:30 Eastern time. It's so much better when you guys come, participate. We really appreciate it. We encourage it. The podcast drops tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Go check out William's book on Amazon, The Book of Esports. If you haven't left a review, I'm pretty sure I know almost all of you in the chat have bought it. But definitely go leave a review on Amazon. And hopefully we see all of you guys next week, because we will be back in the office and studio, and we'll be back to sort of our full form. We'll see you guys next week.